Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz. And once again, it's another Monday, another beginning of the week, so it's time for our first What's Happening in Fashion this week, so let's just get right into it. And of course, let's start off with our headlines for the day. And in our first headline of the day, research firm SEMrush just announced the brand with the most searched for counterfeits online, and to probably nobody's surprise, it is in fact Supreme. And yeah, I know to like you and me, this is kind of like a no shit thing, but here's the real crazy thing about this. We're not just talking streetwear, we're not just talking menswear, we're talking fashion as a whole. Supreme is the number one searched for counterfeit. I mean, we're talking it beat out Michael Kors and Christian Louboutin, for fuck's sake. And obviously there's a ton of reasons why this is the case. First and foremost, whether you like it or not, I know I definitely don't, Supreme is still the most popular, the most hyped brand out there in menswear and obviously streetwear. Then there's the fact that unless you live near a Supreme store, which is, pretty much 99.999% of the population doesn't, you're not really going to get a chance to get your hands on Supreme. So buying a fake online, especially when they have access to it at any point in time and it ships to anywhere, really helps on that end. And even though the factors I mentioned are in fact true, those obviously aren't the main factors. And those are the fact that resellers have fucked it up for pretty much everyone, and yeah, resellers have fucked it up for pretty much everyone. Because even if you don't live near a Supreme store, you're not going to be able to get it online. People scalp the shit out of it there. And then on top of that, they release so little stock, even though, James has been saying for fucking years now that they're going to expand, they're going to sell more. That's obviously not happening anytime soon. And then for those who are lucky enough to be able to snatch up a piece here or there and then flip it immediately into resale after adding 3, 4, 5, 10 times the price on it, and then just letting it sit in line for eternity, then really nobody wins. I mean, just look at it this way. If you go onto Grailed right now and you look up Supreme, you'll see that they have over 80 fucking thousand items on resale, which is more than 20 times second place. If that's going on with your brand, God knows it's no fucking wonder why your brand is the number one searched for counterfeit online. But moving on now to some lighter news, brand Visvim just showed off their newest dissertation, which also included their Spring-Summer 2018 collection, and I have to say, even for Visvim standards, this is absolutely fantastic. If you've always seen Visvim around but never understood why it may be so expensive, I would definitely start looking into it here. I mean, it's really kind of hard, especially when all you have is just seeing images online, to really understand the quality in some of these pieces, and this dissertation really does help break it down. But even aside from the quality of the textiles and the dyes, Visvim Hiroki did a really fantastic job here with the patterns this time around, as well as the colors as per usual. And even on top of that, some of the pieces this time are just fucking gorgeous, especially the patchwork pieces here. I mean, that button up and that long sleeve coat, overcoat, however you want to describe it. And then probably the main piece of this collection, the Chimeo overcoat, that is just absolutely flawless. Really, if you're a fan of just either quality design or Americana, or learning maybe a little bit more about the higher end process that goes behind pieces, definitely check this out. Really, really amazing and fascinating stuff. Alright, and with our headlines now done, let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, Khalidy just showed off some of her new pieces from her exhibit that just finished in San Francisco. And honestly, the best way to describe these would be if you find yourself a fan of either Todd James or Yayoi Kusama, or somewhat of a mixture of the two, and then take that not only in painting form, but then change the medium into fabric as well, then I think you definitely enjoy some of these pieces. Then artist Koralie showed off some of her newest paintings, and honestly, these are just great. If you find yourself a fan of color and pattern, especially in forms of flora and fauna, and definitely symmetry, then definitely check these out, you won't be disappointed. Then Jacob Brostrups showed off some of his newest paintings, and if you've ever found yourself a fan of overlay photography and wondered what you could do if you took that out of photography and put it into an oil painting medium instead, then definitely check these out because he does a fantastic job with that idea here. And lastly, photographer Joana Choumalis showed off some of her newest photos, and honestly, the idea behind these is super interesting. Basically, she went around her hometown and took a bunch of photos as you normally would, but then once they were done and developed, she then added embroidery to them, adding some really nice patterns and colors and ideas that you wouldn't normally see in photography. So honestly, if there is one artist you should check out this week, it's definitely her. Very interesting idea. Alright, and now with our art done for the day, let's move back into fashion, and starting us off, skateboarding brand Primitive just came out with their newest collaboration, this time with legendary anime and manga Dragon Ball Z, and honestly, I think they did a pretty good job with it. As I've talked about a lot recently, a lot of brands excuse me, have fallen into this really lazy idea of making a collaboration with one or at most a couple of designs and then just slapping that on every kind of piece of clothing they can think of in any kind of color. Fortunately, Primitive doesn't fall into that trap here. There's actually a ton of different designs here, and not only that, but they did a very nice job of matching up colors to characters and making sub-collections within this collection, which is really fantastic and really well done. Also, the attention to detail here was really well thought out, and I really appreciate that. And honestly, I'm just really happy with not only the amount of just normal apparel pieces, but accessories as well, including the two skateboard decks, which look really great in my opinion. And last but definitely not least, the absolute cherry on top of this collection is the fact that nothing here costs more than $35, sans the skate decks obviously. So if you've been looking at any of the Dragon Ball collaborations that have been coming out recently and haven't been able to decide on one, let me decide for you. Pick up this collection, it's definitely the best. Now going back to the idea of companies I've shit-talked recently, Awake NY just showed off their Spring-Summer 2018 lookbook, so let's see how they've changed. Wait, what's that? People are giving us shit because we took one lazy designed logo in one color and slapped it on any color shirt we could possibly find? What could we do? I know, let's make it metallic instead. Genius. What do you mean throwing it on t-shirts wasn't enough? Well, I guess we could throw it on hoodies as well? What do you mean that's still not enough? I've literally put 15 minutes into designing this collection. You expect me to actually fucking work on this? Like it's a business or a company or some stupid shit? Well, I guess I got a couple of those plaid, I don't know, pullover things in the back. Just throw the logo on those as well too. Call it a day. I'm fucking tired. Well guys, glad to see you put some actual time and effort into this collection for once. Way to fucking evolve. But now moving on to something a little bit more interesting, Adidas Skateboards just showed off their newest collaboration, this time collaborating with the Beyond the Streets graffiti exhibit, which just opened up in LA, and honestly, I think they did a very good job here. For a nice little streetwear collection, this is really on point. There's a ton of varied and very nice graphics, there's a lot of nice colors, and of course there's a lot of nice accessories, although mainly in the form of bags and pins. But even so, they're still very nicely done. And although they aren't available yet, just based on what I'm seeing from the website, more than likely they're going to be decently priced as well. So I really gotta say, if you find yourself a fan of skateboarding, graffiti, or pretty much any art in general, definitely take a look into these when they become available. Some really interesting, some very nice pieces. Then up and coming brand Wedidit showed off their newest Spring Summer 2018 collection, and even though it's not great, I have to say it's a decent start. First off, starting with the lookbook, I think they did a overall pretty good job here. They do show off a nice amount of the pieces, although I do wish I could see the graphics a little bit better on some of them. But at the very least, they do name the pieces in the lookbook, which I think makes it really nice and really easy to find later on if you're interested in any of the pieces. But going into the collection itself, I do have to give the brand props because they do something that a lot of brands don't really do nowadays. And what they did is they actually put out a full collection. They actually put out shirts, they put out sweaters, pullovers, they put out a jacket or two, they put out shorts, and they put out hats. It wasn't just a single t-shirt for 8 fucking slides like everybody likes to do nowadays. And although yes, they do repeat some of the graphics a lot on some of these pieces, at the very least, there is a decent amount of designs here that give the collection a little bit more interest than what you'd expect, and I have to give them respect for that. But if there's one thing more than anything else I respect them for here, it's the fact that their price point makes fucking sense. Hallelujah, people are finally starting to get it again. Their t-shirts are 30 bucks, some a little bit higher than that, and their pullovers are only $60. We're finally getting back on the right track, so thank you Wedidit for starting it off for the young guys. And if you are looking to help out a newer, younger brand that actually does have some decent ideas and a very good price point, I would definitely check this collection out. And last but not least, brand Stamp showed off their third and final Bleach Dreams collection, and holy shit, is it trash. You know when brands make really fucking shitty clothes and, you know, try and put a shit ton of pretension behind it to try and get people to buy it? That's exactly what this collection is. So let's talk about what Chris himself said about these pieces. He said that these pieces have over 30 years of cultural references woven into them, and that they are pieces that would define a generation. Dude, you literally took sweat shorts and pullovers and wrote fucking community college on them. Calm the fuck down. I mean, we're literally talking community college sweatshorts for $1.50 and community college pullovers for $2. Like, how fucking stupid would you have to be to actually buy into this tribe? But if you really feel like wasting your money on something so shallow and bland and just absolutely boring as this, then by all means, burn that money. Just throw that money away. And actually, while you're at it, then I would just close out of this video as well, because obviously you're not learning a single fucking thing about fashion, and nor do you have any intent to. And then ending on that note, let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Highsnobiety sat down with legendary figure in the streetwear community, Chris Gibbs, and talked to him about the newest Union Tokyo store and basically a couple other things going on with Union. So if you're interested in that, I'd give this a read. Highsnobiety also put up a very nice write-up on the history of Japanese brand Goldwin and basically their ties to kind of modern Japanese brands such as the North Face Purple label and Nanamika, And honestly, if you're interested in the history of fashion, especially Japanese history of fashion, then this is definitely worth a read. Then Grailed once again put out another nice history of, this time of legendary painter Andy Warhol. So if you're more interested in learning about him and basically his influences all over the industry, then I definitely check this out. And lastly, Grailed did another write-up, this time on the idea of how the Puma and Alexander McQueen collabs over the last decade or so have helped inspired this idea of the designer sneakers of today. And it is a really nice article. They do go really in depth into all the releases that they've done between Puma and Alexander McQueen, because of just how overlooked Puma has been really in the sneaker world. Even though, in all honesty, and you can check this up on your own time, Puma has actually put out some really nice collaborations. But going back to the article, they kind of talk more about just some of the design aspects that kind of paved the way into a lot of the things we see today in pieces like Balenciaga and Raf Simons and things like that. Really interesting article, and if you are a fan of high fashion footwear or even sneakers in general, then I would definitely give this a look. Alright guys, and with that we wrap up our first whiff for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, if you want to look at more photos from the lookbooks I wasn't able to include, or just read some of the articles I talked about, I've linked everything in the description down below. And if you are new to the channel, we do these What's Happening in Fashion videos twice a week, every Monday and Friday. So if you're a fan of them and want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, or just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'm always willing to talk fashion. And thank you guys once again for watching these videos and supporting my content. As always, I hope you guys have a couple good days until I see you next, and until next time.